There it is, the magic word there. Yeah, well, good morning, Chad, Lori, Jamie, Liz. Lori, I don't think I've met you in person yet, but I'm Katie, the new manager here at the collaborative. And thanks for being here for our training this morning. I know you both are seasoned volunteers and have done this before, and we're not worried about that at all. But before I hand this training orientation over to Jamie and Liz, I'm just going to go over a little bit of the background of why it's taken a long time to get this program going, and hopefully where we'll be going in the future to hopefully avoid this issue in the future. So what happened is we need to get permits through state parks in order to do this program. And due to COVID and having a lot of turnover within state parks, new people at parks have decided that groups like ours need different types of permissions and permits and background checks to do these same programs. And so it's not just affecting us, it's affecting all of the Marine Reserve ambassador groups, pretty much any group that has a volunteer program in a state park is being affected by these changes. And so it's just taken a long time to figure out what is needed. And part of that is because Parks isn't even really sure what they want and what they need. And they're still trying to change the permits even further, but they have given us permission to go ahead for this year. So all that is to say that shortly, within a matter of like a couple weeks, I'm going to need to connect with all the volunteers and get you all to just fill out a really brief little, I'm not really sure what type of information it will be on, but for a background check by a third party. But the background checks are very, very basic. It's just a name and alias search and then a sexual predator database search. So that's all that they're looking for. And so like I won't even see any of the information that's put on there. Like I said, it just goes direct to a third party. So I just want to give everybody a heads up for that will be a requirement for this program moving forward, and also our Marine Reserve Ambassador program next year as well. And then the last thing that I just want to flag with that is I really, really hope that we won't run into this problem again next year. It's my understanding that this problem started a year or two ago, and Parks each time has promised that there'll be a different resolution for the following summer, but then summer comes and nothing has really happened yet. So I'm going to try really, really hard to be working with the other groups and other organizations to work throughout the year so that hopefully we really do have a better solution coming up into next year. I can't promise, but I'm going to try, and hopefully we'll be able to start earlier next year.
Katie, is there any possibility that somebody from state parks could drop by and ask to see our permit?
That's always a possibility. So that's actually great. Thank you for bringing that up. I'll make sure to print out the permits and give them both to Jamie and Liz to have at the tables, because like we do have that permit with the Smelt Sands program. But it's always a possibility. It would be strange if they did, because the only person who should be doing that would be the parks managers, and they're the ones who gave us the permits. So hopefully that wouldn't happen. We have a good relationship with those parks managers, but it could happen. But if anything ever happens like that and it's weird or uncomfortable for any reason, just call me.
Is there a copy of the permit in one of the folders or boxes that is in the wagon for Smelt Sands?
There is. It's in the expandable folder.
Okay.
And it's laminated. So I think it's like in the back but it's there. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up because I haven't printed off the permit for this program, but I will do that. And actually, the reason why I haven't printed it off is because they've just told me it's approved, but they haven't sent it to me yet. So that's actually why I haven't printed it off. But good flag. I'm making a note of that right now. Do you have, oh, good morning, Cheryl. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning.
Yeah. Are there any other quick questions about why this program's taken a minute to get going and the permitting and all of that? Okay, great. Then just the other thing that I want to share with you all, I think it's pretty exciting. I've talked a bit with Jamie and Liz about it, is I have a vision for our programming to become a bit more language and ability inclusive, so that I have already gotten a lot of our Tidepool information translated into Spanish. ACVA paid for that, which was really great. I just have the translation, like I just have the text. I don't have it in like a pretty format or anything yet. So I'll be working to sort of revitalize our materials, make some Tidepool guides that are just a little bit more updated and, you know, a little more designed, well designed out. So we're going to be working on that. And that's where I think a lot of the Spanish translations will go. And then I'm also going to try and find some money to make the programs a little bit more ability inclusive. So including some Braille, hopefully, and we'll see what else I get funding for, but I don't want to put it all out there yet in case it doesn't come through. But if I'm also sharing that just because, you know, you all are out there in the field working with folks, and, you know, if you have any ideas, just let me know. You know, if you're like, hey, we're actually getting a lot of folks who speak Mandarin, or, you know, it'd be really cool if we could find a way to help accommodate this other type of mobility issue or something like that, that would be wonderful information to share with me at any time.
I could struggle through in Spanish, but in Mandarin, no, not so much. I took a year of Mandarin a long time ago. I can say I am an American in Mandarin. But
well, that is, you know, 5 more words than I have. Okay, great. Well, you know, it's just a few of us today, so if you have any questions as we go through anything, just speak up. But with that, I'll just hand this over to Jamie and Liz.
Cool. And Liz, just completely interrupt me any point throughout this if you like think of something. I had a PowerPoint made, can't use it. The laptop isn't working now, so we're gonna do it old school. So welcome back, everybody. Of course, you 3 are here, like 3 of the coolest people. Chad, remind me too, you go by Milton?
I do not go by Milton.
Oh wait, your name is, you go by Chad. Sorry, I was
go by Chad,
here and I was like, he had a different name. That's right. I'm so sorry about that. That's my bad. Okay, so you all did so well last year. We decided to mix things up just a little, not even mix things up, but just kind of amplify some things. So we are adding in interpretive tables, much like Chad knows that you do down at Smelt Sands for the interpretive programs and whale watching and things like that. So we are getting our own tables. I set one up here in my garage this morning that it's kind of like a little makeshift table, something that you would see when you show up to your shift. I want to start out by saying Liz and I, before you get to the tour every morning, we'll set up the table prior to that, so you can just show up and plug in and do your thing. You won't have to worry about the setup and takedown of everything. Yeah, let's see here. So setup locations, we're not using the Cape Perpetua Marine Garden location this year. We're just doing Yachat State Park and Bob Creek Wayside. They both just had more prolific life last year, and as well as not having to deal with like the mass amounts of sand coming in at the marine gardens at Cape Perpetua. A lot of that by about this time last year just really started covering up all the life with sand, and there wasn't really much to see. So we're gonna stick with these two locations. So for Bob Creek, really easy, just gonna set up right in front of the parking lot there. There's that strip of grass, there's a couple tables. I would probably set it up, I will set it up closer to the picnic tables, not kind of right in the middle of the pathway. That way people can ebb and flow to you as they see fit. We're working on signage. Right now I just have a blank sandwich sign. So we'll work on signage for you all. And let me walk you through what we have on the table real quick. Let me flip my camera somehow. All right, perfect. So here is our little interpretive table so far. So what we have here, we're going to have this full of all of our pamphlets like we were using last year. A lot of stuff on the marine reserve, in the tidal areas. We're going to have some of the same takeaway sheets as last year as well. This one was a huge hit. It's just fantastic for people who are not part of the tour to still have some kind of guideline as to what they're seeing out there. And it's more updated than the laminated sheets that we also have on the tour. We use both of them, but we made sure to print out a bunch of extras of these for these tables specifically this year. So those are an excellent little takeaway. We also shifted a little from the coloring book that we had offered last year, and we're just doing coloring sheet instead. And it's a little more educational as far as what kids are looking at out there. So that's another takeaway sheet that you'll have on your table. We'll have information about what we're doing out here, what we do every year, and other opportunities via the Cape. There's a few sheets that we're also going to be including. Let's see. This one is more of a kind of a survey of who you're interacting with while you're at the interpretive table, which really helps as far as kind of end of the year demographics rundown type thing. Last year, the information that we got from these was really neat. So doing it again this year, just where the people are from, do they know of the Marine Reserve? Where are you going from here? Things like that. So you don't have to push this on every single person you talk to, but it's nice to.
Yeah, Jamie, I'll jump in there real quick too. This sheet is actually really, really helpful for me and the rest of the working folks of the collaborative when we write grants. And it's really helpful information for places like the Overleaf, who donate from their business to us. So it's really helpful information because our funders really want to know who we're engaging with. Cool.
All right. So then actually ignore what I just said.
You don't have to be pushy about it. It's not pushy, like rigorous science. Yeah. But I'm just letting you know that it does serve like a very good purpose for us.
Awesome. So let's not neglect it. It's going to be there, and definitely have it at the front of the table. So that way people, even if they're not directly interacting with you, they can come up and just kind of like sign it as a guest book type of thing. So we get a little more information. We also have a sign up. I'm so sorry. My cat just walked all over this. There's like cat hair. We also have a sign up for the newsletters that we send out, or that Katie will send out. So that's another great thing to have at the front here for people to sign. And then we have the addition of a bunch of really neat interpretive sculptures, toys. So they're really cute. So we have a generic sea star, which is really going to be helpful to talk about not prying off the rocks, talk about the textures, talk about their tube feet, how they use hydraulics. yeah, you can use this little guy for that. We also added in a nudibranch. Now, this isn't a local species that we have here, but you can still talk through how, you know, they have gills on their backsides. You can talk about their little rhinophores. You can talk about their general body makeup, a big foot on the bottom, things like that. And then you can also guide them right back to your takeaway sheet here and be like, so this is more what you're looking for out here. It's going to have like a very fiery back full of those gills, things like that. So that's a little nudibranch. We have a couple crabs that we added. This is not a local species of shore crab, but the body plan works for ours. Actually, I might take a moment to paint these this week. So they're actual like lined or striped or purple shore crabs. That would make a little more sense. And I have the ability to do it. So we'll do that. But it's also another really great way to talk about, you know, male versus female crabs, talk about their carapaces. We can talk about how they bubble from their mouths to produce moisture to keep them happy during the tide exchanges, things like that. It's really cool to be able to have physical things that people can hold and, you know, roll around in their hands and get a better grasp as far as their body plans go. We also have a hermit crab that's substantially larger than any of the hermit crabs we will see out there, but it's so neat seeing it big and up close like that. So another great fun fact to talk about. We're also adding in, and Katie was talking about it earlier this morning before the meeting started. I'm also trying to add in some actual natural objects from the area. So things like an urchin test, again, really tactile things that people love interacting with. And I think it sticks in their brains a little bit more when you can add in something tactile and visual like this. So we have urchin tests, we'll have sand dollars. I have whale burps for you guys that we can talk about. Are the volunteers familiar with whale burps? We didn't really talk about them much last year. Okay, so whale burp is essentially like an ocean tumbleweed. It's called a whale burp, but know that it does not come from a whale. It's just a catchy little name. They're not coming out of whale mouths. They're ocean tumbleweeds. They usually start with like a piece of filament, like a fishing line or something, piece of crab trap, and it'll just build off of that and just keep tumbling around, and eventually they wash up on the shores, usually more in the fall and winter, but it's totally possible now too. So we'll have those as well, because again, another really unique, cool thing that's really fun to interact with. I also
did you call them whale burps? Is that
yes, whale burp.
I've heard them called whale barf, but I've never heard whale burp.
I think Oregon Sea, there's a handout somewhere we have from Oregon Sea Grant that's like 20 years old that calls them beach balls. So
Beach balls.
They have lots of names, but I think the important thing is that they don't come from whales.
Yes. Not at all connected to whales. No chance. There's no way. But yes, they're really neat to like get up close and kind of see all the little pieces that make up these things. And they're solid too. They're oddly solid. I also, and they're messy. I also have added some agates to the table. It just came up a lot in the class that I had 2 weeks ago. Everyone was obsessed with trying to figure out what an agate was. So I'll be adding agates to the table as well. They're a great talking point, especially at Bob Creek, where people can go out and easily find agates there. We'll have that as well. I'm also going to add some that will act as paperweights while we're out at the beaches, because I just picture these just flying all over and having a great time. So we'll add those to the table. We're also adding this year walkie-talkies. This is a fun new addition, because the volunteer will be at the table rather than on the tour. It's a great way to connect with each other if need be. There was quite a few times last year during the tours where people who had signed up for the tours were running late, or they couldn't find where they were supposed to be and things like that. And there was no way to communicate with them at the top of the beach where we were and things like that. So it ended in some like sad emails coming my way and things like that. So to avoid that, we have open communication this year with walkie-talkies. And so we'll keep it on one channel. Don't use it for, just like casual discussions and stuff. Use it only in case of an emergency, or if you need to reach out to the group and connect someone to them, things like that. Keep it appropriate. I don't think anyone here would not keep it appropriate. So walkie-talkies, we'll always have those charged for you on arrival. So you don't need to worry about anything like that. All
Jamie,
this
can you
stuff-
show us how those work real quick? And maybe we should
Yeah.
decide on a channel for us to always be on.
That's a great idea. The numbers are super small. I might take a little bit of paint and mark a channel that you can see. Maybe keep it on, I don't know, you want to do 5?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, just something that there's definitely no one else on.
Yeah, let's
So
try
we'll
out
keep it on-
channel 5, and if that seems to not work for whatever reason.
So we'll keep it on 5. I'll put a little white dot at 5 too, because it's very hard to see. So anyway, we'll keep it at that all the time. They're super easy to use. You just turn them on. She'll talk to you for a minute. Oh. 8, 9, 5. There we go. 5. Really easy. You're just like the ones when we were all kids. You just press the button, talk. We should probably come up with some kind of sign off so we know that the conversation's over. We could do 10-4 or whatever we all decide on. Yeah, super easy little guys though. Just press the button, the red light's on, you'll communicate what's going on. 10-4, turn it off, and you're done. Like I said, it won't be a constant thing that you'll have to use, but it'll be really nice to have there for the chances or for the opportunities that we do need it. We're also adding in the counters again. These worked really well last year. We interacted with a ton of people last year, and every day, I was kind of adding up the tallies from these just on my own personal accord. And it was really neat seeing it grow throughout the season, how many people we were interacting with. So we're going to have one of these at the table as well as during the tours. We also have hand sanitizer and sanitizing wipes for you all, because you never know. Kids will touch things, might become sticky or whatever. So we'll keep it safe there. We have the Tidepool ambassador stickers again this year. So you can pass these out to guests. The guests on the tours will also be getting them. And we have a bunch of these printed out. So have at it. What else? Let me check my notes real quick. So that's the table in general that you will be working with. I'm more than happy as well if you want. No, never mind. Liz and I will be setting these up. You don't need a tear down setup instruction thing. So yeah, let me check my list here. One sec. Oops. Okay. Oh, here's one big thing. This happened a few times during the tours last year. Volunteers this year, please don't bring a group of guests with you, especially if we haven't talked about it. That just kind of complicates things in the moment. So we're trying to keep track of everyone we're bringing on the tours. We're expanding the tour size from, it was 5 last year. And what did we say, Liz? 8 or 10 this year? I think it was 10.
We said we were good with 10 this year if we wanted it.
So 10. So the tours will be larger, which also makes this kind of more important. Just please don't bring a bunch of your family members or guests on the tour unless we've talked about it. Always, you can reach out to any of us, and we're happy to figure that out. As far as signing up for tours this year, I'm not going to do the Google Calendar. That was such a mess last year. So what we're going to do is I'm going to make a spreadsheet on Google, and I'll share that with all of you, and you can just plug your name into the dates that work for you, and we'll sign up that way. I'll be sending that out by the end of this week. So come Friday, Saturday, look for that in your email inboxes. And then you can start signing up. And yeah, that'll be great. We don't have nearly as many tours as we did last year just because of the permitting fun time. So there's want to say there was about a dozen tours left in the year. So we'll fill those up with you guys. Another thing I have noted here from last year is, and I really don't need to be telling you guys this, but really make sure you're using appropriate language with the guests, whether they're on tour, whether they're part of the interacting with the interpretive table, things like that. Please make sure you're using appropriate language. We don't want to upset people. Please don't do that. It happened a couple times last year. Really make sure you're engaging with people, offer up all the takeaway things. People love takeaways, and it'll really help them on their journeys up and down the coast as well. Make sure you're using the interpretive items. That's what they're there for. Kids will really like those. And while you're at the table, make sure you're also talking about the TAP program. So you can say like, see that person in a big wide brim hat, or see Liz down there, they're doing one of the tours right now. Like, you can sign up, put your name on the email list, and next year when we start getting tours back up and running again, you can sign up for those, so you don't miss them, things like that. Make sure you include the program in what you're talking about out here, as well as including the Marine Reserve. That's how we're all here to begin with. So make sure you're talking about why a Marine Reserve is important, the span of it from Yachats to Cedar Head Lighthouse. It's huge. It's a huge Marine Reserve. Things like that. You all know all that anyway. So talking about the TAP program, talking about the Marine Reserve. Yeah, other than that, I think we're pretty much golden. Do you all have any questions about the tables?
So I do.
Yeah, go.
So all the volunteers are at the tables now. They're not on the actual tours.
Yes.
Okay.
For the most part, yes. There will be possibly a few tours where people are doubled up, like there's multiple volunteers per tour. We'll just figure that out when the moment comes. One person can stay at the table, one can join us, or just roam freely with your backpack of interpretive stuff and takeaways like last year.
You mean if there's 2 volunteers that sign up that day? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that work, Liz?
Yeah, that's fine. And I mean, I feel like on occasion, if somebody wants to go on a tour with us, especially people on this right now, because you're all great volunteers, we don't mind taking
Yeah,
you every so often on a tour. So yeah, if you want to come on one, I feel like one won't hurt. So
Totally. Yeah. Anything else? Okay, perfect. Do you have anything, Katie? Is Katie here?
Yes, I'm
Oh,
still
there
here.
she is.
I was muted.
Sorry.
Just the last thing that I'll throw out, and this is also for your smelt sands, for those of you that are at that table as well. I did make these little QR codes. So the connect with one just goes to our Facebook. And then this one is a donate. And I'm gonna just make like a donate jar too. Like last week at Smelt Sands, we had some people just handing us cash. And so yes, we do accept donations. Cash is fine, checks are fine. And then this is how people could donate online if they want to. I don't expect any volunteer to push or solicit for donations in any way, but it just is there for people who feel like they want to. But I don't expect anybody to draw any extra attention to it or say anything about it unless you want to.
Cool.
So I had another question. I happened to be out and about and stopped at the Smelt Sands Tidepool table. How is that program different than what we're going to be doing? And are we rotated in the Smelt Sands program, or is it just we're going to be just at those tables in the 2 locations? What's the, tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, great question. Well, the main difference is that Smelt Sands is really just connecting with people that are passing by. And while our new table for the Tidepool Ambassador program is also going to be connecting with people who just happen to be passing by, the main purpose is really to be like a staging area for people who have already registered for a Tidepool tour, because people do have to register, you know, in advance to go out with Jamie and Liz.
Right. I guess one
Also-
of my concerns would be the activity level at Smelt Sands was very engaging. People, I mean, I happened to be hanging out there a while. People were walking by, there was lots of activity, it's well traveled, as opposed to kind of hanging out maybe at Bob Creek for 2 or 3 hours while everyone was on a tour at a table. That could be a
There'll still be people. There'll be lots of people still. Even just the last couple times, I mean, what was it, 2 weeks ago when we were at Bob Creek?
yeah, I think
It
I
was
was
a
there too.
madhouse.
Yeah.
It was a madhouse. So there will still be people, especially the spot at Yachat State Park will be really cool because that is such a large, expansive like parking lot area.
Yeah, I
We
see
can set
that
up.
being well traveled because I live down the street from there.
That's
So
right.
people
That's
are
right.
there all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So that one will be like high energy. And Bob Creek will still definitely be, because there was so many people that Liz and I had just kind of glob onto the tours throughout the tours at Bob Creek. A lot of people wanted to be engaged but didn't know how or where to go or what to do about that. So that was kind of one of the big catalysts for these tables, is including a standalone area that people can get information about all this without being on the tours. Does that make sense, Lori?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I'll also say, you know, when I came on replacing Tara, you know, I wasn't here last year, so I didn't see how it was ran last year. But when I came on replacing Tara, you know, the collaborative collectively decided that the tables were the direction to go. And so the point is that this is something new for all of us. And if it doesn't work out, or we have ideas of how to change or adapt it, just let us know. I mean, that's the key thing here is, you know, we'll do whatever makes sense for our program. And, you know, a huge part of this is it's supposed to be fun for you all, like you're the volunteers, and that's a key aspect of it. And we definitely want to make sure you feel engaged and fulfilled, and like, you know, this is something that's really valuable to you and worth your time. That's super important to us. So if there are ever ideas where you're like, hey, you know what, it would really be better if we could do something like this, what do you think? Like, absolutely open to any suggestions and happy to talk about it. Not saying we're going to change anything right away. It might be something that we need to think on, or, you know, do next year or something like that, but always open to suggestions.
And how many volunteers are there this time?
So we don't have anyone new from last year. I haven't recruited for this program. So I think on my list, I think there was 8.
Okay.
Off the top of my head. I didn't want to recruit this year since I wasn't sure when we were going to get going. But
Right.
if you have like friends or somebody who might be interested for this year, like just let me know. And we
Okay.
can do like a one-on-one and get them going.
Yeah, I know somebody that might be interested, but I'll just send them over to you.
Yeah, that would be excellent.
Do we all think 8's enough, Jamie and Liz?
For right now, yeah.
Yeah, for right now it should be. And Lori, like I said, if you want to go on a tour, you could always come with me for maybe like an hour and then have you do tabling after that hour
I don't
too.
mind working at a table. Did I look sad? I'm sorry. But you
No,
know,
no,
it's all good.
No, but if
Oh, Liz, you went on mute.
if you do ever want to go on one, just feel free and let us know and we will work it out. So
yeah, and I think
and that goes for anybody. So
I actually think working the table at Yachat State Park would be pretty cool because there's so much action down
oh
there.
heck yes, yeah.
Like
really
that would be fun for me. And you know, it's not like I can't go on a tour anyway. It's just I really enjoyed interacting with Jamie and Liz. That was kind of
Yeah.
like for me, was because I learned a lot from them. So for me, that was like the fun part. And then I could learn, and then I was able to kind of repeat what they were saying to other people as time goes on. So for instance, I went out this year a couple times with Fawn up in Lincoln City. And you know, I knew I could say things, and I knew things because I was able to absorb information from Jamie and Liz last year. So
Mhm.
for me, that is the fun part because there's so many things I don't know. And even though I took an oceanography class in Arizona in the spring and I learned some stuff, for me, it's the interaction with the marine biologists and these guys that know what they're doing that brings me joy.
Yeah.
So that's just
And
my take on it. That's not to say I won't work at a table. I'm just saying, that's
Oh, we get
how I
you.
was involved.
100%. And next year, what I'm kind of hoping is if everything kind of falls into place a lot better, and we would definitely recruit for more volunteers next year.
Yeah.
Maybe at some point we have like a group of folks who feel capable and able to go out and do that kind of thing. And then we also have volunteers at the tables at the same time. It's just a little funky this year.
Yeah.
So just a little bit of growing pains and figuring stuff out. But next year I really actually see both happening. Katie, you
I
can
can see that
totally
too.
tell me not, but
Yeah,
see
and
both.
also, if you're at the table and you get a question that you don't know, feel free to write it down and then ask us later, and we will be happy to answer that question for you.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things too, is when I first did the Tidepool ambassador training, I told Tara, I don't have enough knowledge, I just want to listen to the training, can I? And she
Mhm.
goes, yes, right? And so then when I actually did it, I thought, this could be fun. And as long as I have access to somebody who knows all the answers, because it's not my background, I would be okay doing it and acting in that, what I'm going to call a leadership role to people. Okay. Because
Mhm.
even though we're a volunteer, we are in a leadership role and people look to us for answers. And so I was uncomfortable not being with somebody who knew all the answers, meaning you guys. Okay. Now, so I thought, oh, okay, I'll go because I'll try this because I can always ask Jamie and Liz. At that point, I didn't even know you guys. Okay. So
Mhm.
then it was like, oh, okay. And then I can say to the client, because they are counting on us to keep them safe and give them information. You know what? I don't really know. Let's ask Jamie. She's a marine biologist. I'm a volunteer and I'm in the process of learning myself. And so at a table, one wouldn't be able to do that unless I walkie-talkied you, which I wouldn't do. But so that is just another perspective about it that I'm just sharing.
Totally. And we appreciate that because that's very valid and important. I think, and this is all just, it's not factual, but I would imagine as someone who's worked at tables and stuff before, interpretive tables, it's a different range of questions. It's not as deep. We're not like in it. So where those questions are being formulated, it's more just like very base level. What are they doing?
Right.
What's a star? What's a sea star? Like very,
yeah.
You'll kill it. You'll kill it, Lori. But I totally understand and appreciate what you're saying. And I think next year we should definitely have kind of a flip-flop option, depending on the people, because some people will really thrive at the tables while other people will really thrive on the tours.
Or maybe if somebody, it's hard for them to get down to Bob Creek.
Exactly. That was a huge thing last year too.
Right. So then they can be at the table. I mean, last year I didn't know a sea star had 5 eyes and where it pooped from and where it ate from. So, I am advancing.
Look at you now. Perfect.
Oh, anyway.
Awesome.
So what do we do if we're talking to someone and there's a tour going on and the person at the table says, can I just run down and join the tour? I think you don't want that to happen, I assume.
Not so much. I mean, again, it's very dependent on that day because we had many tours last year where like almost the entire tour didn't show up because people are traveling from far distances and stuff, and we don't know until we show up that morning kind of what the whole experience is going to be like. So yeah, I'd play that by ear.
Okay.
I'll jump in for that one too. So our permit is for 5 people per one guide. So that being said, if there's like you all said, if there's 8 people, it's okay. Like we're not gonna like get in trouble, but we're not gonna openly advertise that. So if you're at the table, I think it would be good for you to take note of how many people are on that tour. If there's 4 people on that tour and one person comes up and is like, hey, can I jump in? Be like, yes. If there's 5 people on that tour and a couple comes up and says, hey, can we just jump in? My recommended answer would be, these tours are they're free. However, you do have to have a reservation, and that is because our permitting with state parks requires us to have a specific number of guests per guide. And we're maxed out today. However, you can sign up for a future tour on it's Eventbrite, right, Jamie?
Yeah.
So that being said, I'll make another code for the Eventbrite sign up. And I don't know if you all are familiar with QR codes, but all you need, they look scary. Even I didn't like mess with them for years when they first came out. But all you need to have people do, any smartphone, whatever smartphone it is, any smartphone, just point the camera at it. Pretend like you're taking a picture. And then there'll be something that comes up on their smartphone that says, oh, do you want to go to this link? And you just click that. That's it. So as long as that person knows how to open up their camera on their smartphone, they can use these.
I still
Let's
have
go,
never,
people.
I've never gotten my camera to work right with those things.
We'll try next time I see
I
you,
point
Chad.
at it, I move the camera back, I do everything that my son always tells me to do, and they don't work. So I'm doing something wrong.
Well,
get
you know what
there.
I can do too? I can put the link like in words down here too. So that way there, people can type it in if they want to. It's just some of those links go on for like, forever.
Miles.
Yeah. But I can also get short URLs or something. So I'll make these better. But yeah, just so you know, hopefully you're just supposed to be able to point your camera at it and get there.
And one thing too, Chad, is you can, give them these handouts and kind of send them on their way with like a direction. Like there's a really good set of pools right at the beginning of the speech here. Take these handouts, like ID it yourself. Like you can prepare them at least for like a good little experience,
good
even without
idea.
being on the tour.
That's a really good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. That way, because a lot of time what kept happening last year is we would be wrapping up the tour and walking back to the parking lot, and there'd be all these people that are like, I want to do that. And you're like, I have nothing to even give you, right? Like there was nothing. It was just kind of like, sorry, look next year on Facebook. And it was just, kind of flimsy. So you can really set people up for success, even if it's just them going out on their own. They'll still learn stuff. They'll still see things, even if they're not on the tour. And it kind of makes everyone a little more included, just at a different level by not signing up, if that makes any sense.
Well, some of those handouts are really good.
Oh, they're fantastic.
Yeah. So
They're great. Also, I was just thinking, would you all like to have, we have binoculars that Liz and I have in our packs. I didn't use it once last year. Would you like the binoculars at the table for whales?
yeah.
Okay, I'll bring those and put them on the table.
Cool.
Anything else?
Oh, go ahead, Chad.
I was just gonna say the 2 questions that I get the most sitting at the Smelt Sands table are about tide pool animals and about whales, just the 2 things you were just talking about.
Perfect.
Everybody, all the kids want to know about tide pool animals, and some of them know a lot about it already. And both kids and adults want to see whales. So I don't know, the binoculars would be great. If I bring my own, but I'm a little reluctant to give them to guests.
I would be too. No,
So
you
you're
can use
talking about
ours.
binoculars that you could actually let the guests use.
Yep.
Yeah, they're ones that the
Okay,
guests
that'd be
can
great.
use.
They're nice too. They're nice little
Yeah.
binoculars. So we'll keep those on your tables for you guys as well.
Okay, that'd be great.
Of course. Is there anything that you want on the tables that we haven't thought of yet? And you can also just email us at some point too, if you randomly think of something that would make your life easier. Let us know.
Yes. A couple more less fun things. So I'll send these to you all in an email as well, but we do have some safety protocols to be aware of. The first that I want to talk about is just interacting with people. The world is a super, super crazy place. People get angry and triggered over nonsense, and avoid confrontation. That is not your job, and value your safety over anything. If a guest ever gets confrontational and you need to just leave, even if that means walking away from the table and not grabbing any resources or anything. Like, your safety is the priority. I also wanted to say too that, guests might try and like join the tours or tag along or something that aren't registered, or they might be doing things that aren't, legal or good stewardship or anything like that. While that is so frustrating, it is also not your job to police any of that. Your job is not an enforcer. So I would recommend, not trying. If you see illegal activity, I know the cell phone service is really bad out there, but 911 is your friend if it's that extreme. Or if it's like some sort of illegal take or something that you're seeing at the parks, just take a note of that. Yes, Jamie.
Sorry, I was like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Can we print out a list of just like good phone numbers to have for the volunteer table?
Yes.
That'd be great.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
marine mammal stranding, stuff like that would be really helpful.
So
Okay.
if you see people illegally collecting sea stars or whatever, while that probably like burns at your soul, your job is to not, you're not the one to intervene. I just don't want to put you in a situation that makes you unsafe. So for something like that, take notes. If you see like their license plate, jot that down and we can turn that into state law enforcement. And another safety thing that I want to note is, we live in tsunami and earthquake zone. So this is something that we talk about with our smelt sands program too. If you feel the ground shake, again, your safety is priority and your job is to get to higher ground. I know this was brought up in the smelt sands training of like, well, what do we do with guests? Say, follow me and get to higher ground, but it is not your job to protect anybody else. Like, your safety is the most important. So I just want to put all of that out there, be aware. And like I said, I'll send you some resources via email, and they'll be the same resources that we use for smelt sands regarding this type of stuff.
So far, I've never seen anybody go out and try to collect sea stars or something like that.
Yeah, that's a pretty like extreme example.
But there was, of course, there was just, a week ago, Katie, you were there when somebody found a black oyster catcher nest. And has that been dealt with at all?
Working on it. So yes, there is an oyster catcher nest at Smelt Sands, and it's really cool. The not really cool part is it's in a really easily accessible area that people can like literally stumble up upon. So I am trying to work with parks to see what we can do. Us as a collaborative, we can't like rope it off or anything without permission. I'm really, really hoping that parks will maybe want to rope it or put some signage or something just until they hatch, but we do have another volunteer. Kelly is actually previously signed up with Autobahn to monitor that nest, and we didn't even know there was a nest there, so it's kind of exciting. She just got asked to monitor smelt sands, and now there's a nest. So we do have eyes on it, but hopefully we'll be able to find a way to protect it a little bit better.
That would be nice. I could hear them. I haven't gone to look at the nest yet because I didn't want anyone to follow me out there, but I could hear the oyster catchers, so they're still around there.
Yeah, they're definitely still around. Kelly did see them sitting on the eggs a few days ago. It's just this fine line of, without the area being roped off, we don't want to draw more attention to the nest, but we also, want people to stay away. So I've been encouraging people to say something like, if you see a blackbird with an orange bill, like, chances are there's a nest nearby, please walk away. Like, please exit that boundary.
Where did you say it was located?
It's at Smelt Sands.
Okay.
It's right close to the table, very close to where.
Wow.
To the table?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not a secret, but it's like, it's just one of those things where, like, we don't want to draw more attention, but we just also want people to know that, like, it is seabird nesting season. If you see these birds and they're not flying away from you, leave. Like,
Mhm.
it means you're bothering them, which, I think that that's sometimes a hard connection for people who aren't, in this type of work of, like, oh, this bird's hanging out with me, how cool. And it's like, no, this bird is really freaked out, you're going to crush its nest. Like, leave.
Mhm.
Another thing is that it seems like the sneaker wave issue is probably more important for the tide pool people than it is for the regular smelt sands people. They're going to be out close to the water and all that.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up too, Chad. That's another issue that please feel free to talk about at the table. I think especially families with kids, is that sneaker waves are an issue, and I can send some resources about sneaker waves too. But it's exactly what it sounds, where a wave is sneaky and it's bigger than the rest of the waves, and they can be dangerous and they can even be deadly. So it is an issue that I'm working with some other groups in the area where we would like to promote more resources and outreach about this issue, because it is scary if you see kids, like, playing on the rocks near the edge. So I think that's another good issue, another thing to kind of have in your mind of ways to talk to people, especially with kids that seem like excited to get in the water, like, hey, this actually isn't the best beach to play in the water.
Oh,
Go ahead, Jamie.
I also just remembered something. I worked with the city. They're getting us a bunch of local tide tables that we can pass out as well.
Oh, that's
So that's
great. That's really
right?
good.
Like,
Yeah.
why didn't we do that last year? So we're gonna have tide tables as well that are usable from Florence to Lincoln City. So you can pass those out as well from the tables and talk about tide changes and things like that. So that will really help as well.
Yeah.
That's a
The
good
only
idea.
thing that I had was my cell phone. So I put the stuff I found on my phone for Newport on the little blackboard, and that's kind of, but it would be better if they had a tide table.
100%. Yeah, we got it.
We'll once you get some of those, Jamie, we'll, like, laminate one so that it can just be, like, on the table
Great
for you
idea.
all. So when you get asked what the tides are, it's just right there.
Great idea. We could almost, and feel free anybody to shoot this idea down, but we could have like a little whiteboard even at the table that you just list the low and the high of the day. So that way when people show up and they're like, what's that? Oh, what time is it? Oh, and then you can go from there
That's
as
a good
far as,
idea. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, we do that at Smelt Sands too. So that's a great idea.
I will jump in now. Whiteboard.
Yeah. Well, it is the top of the hour. Are there any more questions?
No, thanks a lot.
Yeah. And if you do
Thank
have
you.
questions, email me. Also, if you get questions at the table that you don't know, tell people or just email me. They can get on the website. There's a contact us button. We'll try and figure it out.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Liz and Jamie, can you stay on for a moment?
Yep.
Thanks. Signing off.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.